Welcome back to Dum-Dums and Dragons, where improvisers who've never roleplayed before journey into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I am the Grand Wizard Bukkake, your host. Butthole's trial has begun, but should he be found guilty, he'll be executed for the crimes of the Moonites. Alan Quinney and not Peter Baelish have done their best to build a solid defense. But will it hold up in court? Will Quinney's side quest to find Fiddlesworth pan out? Will Butthole survive the trial of the century? Find out next on Dum-Dums and Dragons.
And then Von Strauss kind of like taps his sword on the ground and kind of like stop fucking talking to the prisoner way. And Bluebeard throws up his little tiny gnome hands. He's like, I'm sorry, just starting the trial.
And I want everybody to know that I'm on my game. So I unfold the fart box and I hold it up, and inside it just says, I'm sorry, Von Strauss. I'm one step ahead of them.
I like to imagine that under that you had, I'm sorry, judges. I'm sorry, Alan. I'm sorry, Quinney. I'm sorry, Dr.
Yeah, it got smaller, though, because it's like when you make a happy birthday sign and you fuck up the end of birthday. It's that.
Yeah, great. So you're all brought in. Von Strauss kind of calls for everyone to rise. A lot of people have shown up from around Neverwinter to watch the case. The Moonites have been a rather large problem of late. Notably, even the balconies are filling up. So Von Strauss taps his sword on the ground, calls for order, tells everyone to rise, and announces that court is now in session. So we're going to cut quickly to Quinney. Quinney, you are looking for Fiddlesworth, a.k.a. Stankfleur.
Stankfleur.
Where are you looking for him?
Since I know now that Stankfleur is doing some pretty terrible things, I think I'm going to try and use my criminal contact ability, see if I can contact him, find him that easier that way. I might even go back to old One-Eyed Stink.
You find One-Eyed Stink looking gently frustrated by the bridges. It seems that something went wrong with the Waterdeep expedition. A couple of them left very angrily this morning. Apparently, they thought they had some kind of deal set up, but now suddenly someone pretty high up has pulled the plug.
Okay.
So pretty mad about that. He does say, though, that he managed to fleece this half-elf who was just like walking around not paying any attention to what she was carrying. So he kind of like jangles a bag of coin. He's like, oh, man, I love people from out of town.
Sweet. At some point in this conversation, I'd like to roll a sleight of hand check.
Go ahead.
17.
You attempt to sleight of hand the bag out, but you realize he's actually very quietly tied a cord from it to his belt. So you pull it, and he's like, oh, really, Quinney?
I just saw, I remember the coin eye thing, and I wanted to, one up you.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh,
but,
gosh.
I'm in a pretty bad mood already, and this isn't helping.
Okay, sorry, man.
What do you need?
I need to find Stankfleur.
Oh, man.
Come on, I know you know the name. I'm not fucking about. I need to find him. I need to find him now.
All right, well, look, man, last I heard, he was at the old Falstaff Manor. You know that guy who came to town, started setting up.
Yeah.
Built a beautiful house over in the Chasm District. And last I heard, that's where the gangs hold up.
The gang?
Yeah, he's taking all of his crazy acolytes over there.
Man, I gotta infiltrate an entire house and bring out the boss.
Hey, man, your plan, not mine.
You want to make some money, Stink?
Never say no to making some money.
All right,
we cut back to courthouse. See No Evil announces that court's now in session, and he says we'll begin with the statement by the defense. So the way this is going to work, Alan, you're able to give a statement to kick things off. I'll tell you what you need to roll if you need to roll anything.
Okay.
Not Peter Baelish. You can join in. I'm going to say twice, so pick your moments. Butthole, after they've made their statement and after the prosecution lays out their case, you'll be able to make a statement on your own behalf.
I love it. I have no idea why the court works this way, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, the court, and everyone who's come to watch the trial. I am here representing Mr. Butthole Fartch, and I think that after this trial is done, everyone will be able to see that he is not guilty of what he is being accused of. So, as you know...
Can you roll me a Constitution save, please?
No. 10 total.
You throw up in your mouth. You can either try and choke it down and keep going, or you can try and spit it somewhere quietly and hope no one notices.
I'm going to try to choke it down.
Okay, roll me another Constitution.
21 total.
You think about how desperately in need of good legal counsel Butthole is, and you are a learned person, a person of books, and your friend is in danger, so you take your mouthful of vomit, and not only do you force it down, but you just kind of clench your horribly upset stomach and are like, no, we're getting through this. I got kissed today. Anything's possible in this world full of wonders. So you manage to keep your composure. The audience does not seem to notice.
Okay, excellent. My client, Mr. Butthole Fartch, he is a cleric of great power, but he also had a very painful upbringing as a child. And in response to that, his only solace was in his faith and following Moonhammer,
There's
the goddess.
There's gasps and like mutterings of like, oh, he's one of them. It's true.
Not Peter Bayless is just like, ugh.
It's just like the Marge Simpson, like,
And Butthole is just sitting on the chair, just sort of like nodding along, like a kid getting read a storybook at like elementary school. Like he's into it.
But this Moonhammer may be different from the Moonhammer that you've heard of. This Moonhammer is the goddess of strength, joy, and flatulence.
Butthole's mouthing along.
The third one is made up of the first two.
people are like, oh, that's very good. Yes, I understand how that would work.
And if you think of all of those traits together, this goddess is really a positive goddess, spreading a positive message of strength, joy, and flatulence. And Mr. Fartch, sure, he's been spreading the word of Moonhammer, but
Assorted gasps.
but only because of the positive aspects. Moonhammer is not a vengeful god, is not a violent god.
From the crowd's visibly agitated, and from the crowd, someone yells, but they told us to fear Moonhammer.
Yes, and they told you wrong.
Butthole is really like, he's been told, hold it in and shut the fuck up. So he is like struggling at this point. So
Speaking
like,
of holding things in,
no. He's determined. He's holding in that poop so
right,
hard.
great.
He's not going to poop now. Not yet. He's saving it. He has decades of fart control. Like he could hold it in until he dies.
Circumstances aside, you're in court now. You need to hold it anyway.
We'll see how this
You're on
case
trial.
goes.
that's not entirely true in Butthole's case, I don't think.
Not Peter Baelish leans forward and just gently touches her shoulder. She just says this, like,
But who are they that have been speaking? Not this man you see on the stand, but others. Certainly you've never heard him speak any of the violent words that have been permeating this fair city, this city I call my home.
Oh, she's local. I like that. I'm scared of people who aren't from here.
And as you will see throughout this trial, one stank floor, also known as Fiddlesworth, has taken to his advantage the fact that Moonhammer is an unfamiliar goddess here. And he has bastardized the teachings of Moonhammer to get the buttling class to rise up against their masters.
And I mutter to myself, so much for that fucking reveal.
You get an in conclusion before we move on.
In conclusion, you will see that Mr. Fartch is not guilty of any of the things that he has been accused of, and that one stank floor should really be on trial here.
Can you, Alan, please roll me an intelligence check? Just add your modifier. And a persuasion check.
Intelligence is 12 total. Persuasion is 5.
The crowd is a little bit restless, but you can see a couple of nodding heads. Okay. You have never done a court case before. You have no idea if that's good or bad.
People are nodding in disapproval.
no. Oh, he's going down. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Bluebeard says, welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and assorted other creatures of the court. Thank you for coming here together today to observe the rule of law and the will of justice. And he proceeds to start listing people off. And, he does this. He lists off about 10 names. Says, you may have known these people. You may not have known these people. But each one of them has been murdered and branded for not choosing to partake in the 3 so-called values that my esteemed colleague has seemed to suggest that this man, this Mr. Fartch, has been bringing to our fair city. Neverwinter has seen enough difficulties without a fanatical cult who insists on enjoying them in revels at the cost of your own life, causing more chaos than there already is. We've had trouble with the dead rats. We had trouble with the chasm. Hell, we can't even afford to get 2 fucking bridges, pardon my French, completed in this city. We do not need a fanatical maniac riling up the buttling class against us. My job here today is to remind you of those 10 names and what they went through and what this man, Butthole Fartch, caused them to go through. I don't care if the symbol on his chest is different from the one that's been found on people. I don't care if he says that his version of this god is different than the version we've been seeing the cost of in our city. This man has brought this plague to our door, and it is my job to save you, the people, from it. And then he sits down.
And I'm just thinking to myself, I am so not a fucking lawyer.
So von Strauss kind of taps his sword and says, and now, as is customary, specifically in Neverwinter Court, the defendant will be allowed to speak on their own behalf.
Awesome. So I pull my way to my feet and I look over at my counsel and give them a knowing nod. And I turn to the judges and I say, listen, I may not be a big city lawyer like this gentleman over here. I'm just a small country guy. I'm just going to speak plain. I apologize. I'm definitely going to swear. Thank you, judges. No eyes, no mouth, don't hear so good. So glad you're here. Thank you, everybody who's come to this trial. Thank you, everybody, except this guy. And I point to the prosecutor. Don't care for what he said. First of all, this man is a pretty bad lawyer. He opened by saying he doesn't care if I'm not part of this gang. This man is an idiot. He has said he doesn't care if I worship a different god. That means he could be charging anybody in this room. He just picked me, I don't know, because I'm tall, because I'm new, because I was by myself. We're all alone sometimes, and that's why I got arrested, and that is crap. He also said that I'm part of a gang. I don't live here. I came here months ago because I owed a friend a favor and I wanted to do the right thing. I mentioned that I have a goddess who a lot of people say I invented. Arguably, yup. I would say discovered. But I told this to a butler named Fiddlesworth, also known as Stankfleur. And then I left. And then I reach into my back pocket and I pull out the deed to Fandelver's Wave Echo Caverns. I spent the last couple of months starting a Temple of Moonhammer, which is run by two lovely and excellent dwarf brothers in Fandelver. You can see this deed. It is dated. I literally haven't been here. This is fucking crazy. Also, I don't brand people. That's dumb. The moon, fire. You'd have to be a fucking idiot trying to ruin someone else's religion to put this together. They hurt my fucking dog. And I point to Goblin Jr. and I'm like, I didn't brand his face while I was in prison. That's fucked. I'm not on Team Psychopath. I just want to help everybody. I can't wait to clear my name, and I will happily lead the city guard to fucking murder every one of these Moonhammer blasphemers. I swear an oath to you right now, the moment I am cleared, I'm going to kill everyone in the name of justice as permitted by the court.
I just try and reach over and like touch his shoulder and just say, maybe that's...
I calm down for a second. I'm like, thank you, not Peter Baelish. With the court's permission, alongside von Strauss, we will hunt down the people who have betrayed this nation and committed treason against the great Lord Neverember, and we're going to fix it. Because I'm a good dude. We're all good people. They're the bad dudes. Stop the bad dudes. Be a good dude. Also, don't know why this guy mentioned bridges in his speech. And I sit down.
Bluebeard stands up and says, I'd like to motion to use the silence powder around the prisoner's booth to stop any further outcries. Von Strauss is kind of like nodding.
I just raised my hand like I want to ask a question in elementary school class.
They do not acknowledge that.
I gesture Alan over.
Yeah.
I don't know why they called my speech an outburst, but I might, if I were a lawyer, say objection.
Specifically, the Bluebeard hears you and he's like, specifically the let's kill them all outburst. So he looks up to the judges.
I raise my hand again.
They're ignoring you.
I lean over to Alan and I'm like, I only said kill them all, I think twice.
The judges seem to sort of confer quietly with them, but one of them seems to be gesturing pretty emphatically in the negative. Finally, the other two just kind of shrug and they're like, it is the decision of this court right now. And they kind of look to the one judge who's pretty emphatic that the prisoner should be allowed to continue to speak at this time. Thank you. And Bluebeard's like, preposterous. And he sits back down.
And I give like a thumbs up to the crowd.
Cool.
What did you just write down?
I rolled a dice and I wrote something down. That's how law works.
Oh.
So cut to Quinny and old one-eyed Stink. So Stink has managed to lead you to the manor house. Falstaff liked the appearance of finer things. From the outside, it looks fantastic, but you suspect a lot of that's sort of like It's wood painted gold rather than actual gold. You notice the front door is ajar.
Oh, okay. Then I'm going to walk in.
One Night Stink's like, don't just walk in. You open the door and you see that the place is like trashed. Looks like it's been looted pretty thoroughly. People have definitely been living here. It's a little bit like, in a movie when someone like breaks into a house that a bunch of like people have been living in. They're like, what? There's mattresses everywhere.
Yeah.
But the building is oddly silent.
Hail Moonhammer.
You hear your voice echo through the large building, but nothing else.
I want to have a look around.
So you and Old One Instinct start patrolling around.
Yeah.
It looks like this place would have been quite nice at one point, but it's clearly been kind of ill-used over the past little while. You get the sense that it's been abandoned fairly recently. Some of the bedrolls are still warm. There's still some food around that hasn't started to turn, but the building is empty.
I'm going to say right now, I think the master bedroom is where Stinkfloor would stay, so I'm going there.
Sure. You open the door to the master bedroom, and the rest of the room's been pretty well ransacked. It seems fairly untouched. It's impeccably clean, with the exception of one of the large bastardized symbols of Moonhammer painted in blood above the bed.
Is there a desk or anything like that?
Yeah.
Can I have a look there and see if there's anything written down?
There's a number of stationery. There's a blotting pad. It seems that Fiddlesworth did a lot of his correspondence here. You find 2 of the letters from Butthole from back in Fandelver, and a lot of letters back to Fiddlesworth saying, like, standing by, like, we'll rise, blah, blah, blah.
This doesn't seem very good. I think I got to run back to the courthouse. You know how in Mario 64, it's faster to long jump than it is to run?
I do know that, yes.
I want to use my boots of strutting to get there like as quickly as possible.
All right. So there's a sort of like a balcony over the back that kind of overlooks things. Kind of like step up dramatically, and Old One Eyed Stink's like, wait, Quinny, where are you going?
Bye.
And you like spring far into the air, and he like runs up and grabs the edge. It's like in the first Spider-Man movie when like Mary Jane sees Spider-Man swing away, and he's just like runs up and he like grabs the banister and he's like, goodbye, Quinny, and good luck. Back to the courthouse.
Bye.
Courthouse.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm doing, yeah.
So you now have the opportunity to call witnesses. So the way the court case is going to work mechanically, I'm going to just storybook our way through the prosecution so that I'm not just like talking to myself for like an hour. And then we'll hear key witnesses for the defense. So we're going to say that's Carmine and probably the gnome.
Carmine, dead gnome, and then Steve/Goblin Jr., because I want to hinge on the fact that Goblin Jr. got injured while I was in prison.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So the prosecution gets up and they start calling their witnesses. You feel like the general attitude of the prosecution's case is that this was going to be pretty open and shut, largely because they haven't been able to identify who was running the gang. The fact that someone showed up who looks and is like talking about it, and it seemed like they were like, okay, this is a pretty open shut thing, but already there's been some doubt thrown on this from various things. So they bring up some character witnesses. The one that hurts you the most is a couple of people who were at the Upside Down Hat the day that you guys first arrived, and Alan and Butthole put on a big performance about Moonhammer using thaumaturgy and a bunch of other things. It was a very impressive display, and they remember that a few of their friends became converts after that. So for them, the direct link is Butthole, and the court seems to react pretty violently to that. However, a lot of the other witnesses are just kind of people from town being like, oh, yeah, this happened to my friend and this happened to me. There doesn't seem to be too much direct evidence for Butthole other than that.
I think Goblin Jr., Steve, is probably our weakest witness, so we start there. Then we'll do Gnome, and then we'll do Carmine last.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, cool.
Great. All right, so the court recognizes its own guard, Steve, and apparently this wolf.
Do you want me to field this one out because you weren't around when this happened?
Yes, and now I would like to pass the questions to my client, Mr. Fartch.
This is highly unorthodox. We'll allow it.
I just feel so satisfied having heard that in so many week-to-week plays that I've seen the touring company do, Law & Order Neverwinter Victims Unit, that I really like. So I walk up, and I'm just like, Steve, who are you guarding in the jail?
I was, first of all, hi, everyone. Hi. Wow, I can't believe so many people. So I was guarding one Yevgenovich, who is a speaker of the Zvorts, who works with the Dead Rats, who have been hassling our city. There was someone I'm not allowed to speak of, who is not related to this case. And, of course, there was... you, Mr. Butthole Fartch.
Great. Can you point to Butthole Fartch, the one you were watching?
He points directly at you.
Now, Butthole, me, I have an emotional support animal.
Yes, that's correct.
And can you point to that animal? Is that animal in this courtroom?
Yes, that adorable animal is in this courtroom, and he points to Goblin Jr.
So I like wave Goblin Jr. over, and I like have him go up and like sit. Like I pull a chair next to Steve, and he sits there so that they can see. And I'm like, this animal has been going around with my legal team. Alan is not somebody who wants to go to the shadier parts of town, but apparently this case has required it. So we knew she would need emotional support. And then the other night, this animal came to us injured, correct?
Yes, that is correct. One of the clerks brought the animal in. The animal had been branded.
Branded. And this brand is apparently, and I use broad finger quotes, known as the Mark of Moonhammer.
Yes, that is the Mark of Moonhammer that we've been seeing around town.
I would like to present this dog's face as Exhibit 2 of our case, and I turn it so that the court drawer person can draw the symbol of Moonhammer on the side of the dog's face, a horrible one, and I just say, if you notice, this symbol does not match the symbol on my armor at all, and I point, it's literally on my chest, a giant symbol with a hammer coming out of a butt. I could not have branded my own dog. I would not have done the symbol wrong. And it's completely mental to think I would want to torture my own animal to send it into prison. Do you believe that those things, having witnessed me for several days, and I am not a secretive fellow, I am very clearly a farting idiot, do you believe that would be completely bonkers?
I do believe that would be completely bonkers. And then Bluebeard's like, objection, what is leading the witness? This is, I'm having none of this.
Bluebeard. Very rarely can I say things I know, but I do watch a lot of Law & Order Neverwinter Victims Unit.
Don't we all?
You can't lead the witness if you're the prosecution, but as the defense, you can lead wherever you want.
I'm a consultant on that show. This is on me.
Why don't you talk about bridges again? And I say that really quiet, just he can hear it, but not the judges. And then I say, thank you, Steve. You've had an impeccable career. We thank you for your service.
Thank you. Before Steve sits down, Bluebeard gets to cross-examine, and the thrust of his argument is, Butthole is basically claiming, ladies and gentlemen, that it would be insane for him to brand this dog. But look at this man. Does this look like a sane man? He farted in an envelope and sent it to me. This is absurd. And if he didn't do it, perhaps one of his clearly very legally minded associates, and he points to not Peter Baelish, may have done it for him. And he goes and sits down.
I just want to state for the record of the podcast and also the court, Peter Baelish just kind of looks around and like puts his hands up like, what? Come on.
Can you roll me a persuasion check?
11.
Weirdly, that'll actually work because I rolled a 5. The crowd is kind of like, yeah, dick move.
Right.
Dick move, Bluebeard.
Come on.
This guy seems all right.
And
cool.
I mutter to the front row of the crowd, and I'm like, I thought I was sending the farts to the judges.
All right, call your next witness.
We would like to call as our next witness the former butler of one Justice Pemberton.
But we're not supposed to know his name.
Shit.
I whisper from my chair.
You can see one of the judges just be like, you notice it was the judge who was arguing most vehemently to allow Butthole to continue to speak.
The gnome Samling.
And Pemberton is like clearly looking around like, the fuck?
So I gesture to Steve, who's sitting in the front row now, like he's got pom-poms. He's cheered for us.
He doesn't have pom-poms. He's not that into it.
And Butthole's not looking, but he assumes that's what's happening.
Right, fair enough.
And the bag gets passed to not Peter Baelish.
I make my way to the crowd, excuse me, pardon me, being really charming the whole time, just being like, oh, lovely to see you again. Oh, what a beautiful dress. And then on the witness stand, with a little bit of effort, because I've never actually gone into the bag before, I find what I thought was like the ankle of the goblin, which has been rotting inside this bag. But it's really more like closer to the thigh, and like the flesh is soft.
I turn around and yell to the courtroom, this may not be acceptable viewing for children under the age of 8.
And I pull out the body and set it on the witness stand. But I turn to the court, or the crowd, just be like, hands up, like, go with me on this, huh? Come on.
The crowd is like a little uneasy, but you kind of won them over earlier with your nonchalant attitude. So they're kind of like, well, she's the lawyer, presumably.
Yep, it's me now.
Well, you're co-counsel.
I lean over to Alan and I'm like, if she forgets to point it out, ask him who's in charge of the gang, because he won't say me.
Kind of like shake it out and then cast Speak with the Dead
First of all, von Strauss has lit his sword on fire and is standing ready to cut you down because this is not acceptable court behavior. There's a lot of muttering from the judges, but you see Pemberton stand up and like literally like kind of like gesture menacingly to both of them. And he says something to the effect of like, "We've allowed it before, we'll allow it today." Like, that was special circumstance. No one could identify the killer but the body. And he's like, "Shut up. Trust me on this." And they kind of grumble. You get the sense that you're going to have to tread very carefully. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of like nods to von Strauss. Von Strauss seems to be not fully on board with Pemberton. So he looks ready to strike if this goes south.
If someone goes really, really wrong.
So the wind howls, the body twitches. The gnome, I should point out, is naked at this point because you stripped him and didn't redress him.
He may have some spoons or forks in him. I don't know.
And in this
disorganized
grisly display, suddenly the ghost comes up and he's like, "Fucking again?"
Ah, yes, lovely to see you too.
You know what? It's nice to see you. It's lonely in there. In the dark.
And you see, here we are, amongst friends. My first question for you, my dear departed companion. Who is the leader of the gang, the Moonites?
Oh, it's our glorious leader, Stankfleur.
Ah.
I kind of look to the crowd of the judges to like gauge what they're looking like.
You see some like kind of quiet nodding. You get the sense that Butthole hasn't been in town. So everyone has been hearing about this gang and the name Stankfleur has come about a few times, but it was very convenient when this like giant signal flare of a man came through. But yeah, the people seem to know the name.
How did you and all of your associates hear about the Moonites?
Stankfleur came to each of us and told us of the goddess's promise.
I point to Butthole and say,
"And who is this man?"
He turns and he kind of like, his eyes go wide and he like looks at the sigil on your chest and he looks at you and he gasps and he says, "The vessel, he's come back."
Ah. What is the vessel?
The one who will lead us all into Moonhammer's glory.
I look at Butthole.
Hey, this is news to me. I look at Goblin Jr. and he's like, "Snurf, snurf."
You look to Steve and he's like, "What?
Where are your pom-poms?
What?"
Did you know this man would be the vessel because Stankfleur told you, or because you just guessed that right now?
Stankfleur told us. The vessel was the one who brought the word of Moonhammer to Stankfleur in the first place. And then he turns to Mist. Bluebeard's like, "This is going to make cross-examination rather difficult." He kind of like eyes the naked gnome in a very like uncomfortable manner.
Do you want me to bring him back?
No, I don't think I think he helped my case enough.
Yeah, that didn't go well at all.
So I need you to roll me a persuasion check, please.
14.
Okay, final witness.
We would like to call to the stand Mr. Carmine Falstaff.
There are tremendous gasps and like, "I thought he was dead," and things like that. So Falstaff comes in. You can see that in the sort of the washroom of the courthouse, he's like desperately tried to clean himself up a bit, look a little bit more presentable.
Mom spaghetti.
But so he's walking with as much dignity as he can muster. As he passes Butthole, he kind of like puts a hand on his shoulder and kind of like nods at him and then takes a seat.
Thank you so much, Mr. Falstaff, for being here today. I know this must be very difficult for you.
Everything's been difficult for me of late. My legitimate businesses are in trouble, as the people well know. And he kind of looks around and everyone's like, "No."
Could you please describe your relationship with the defendant?
Butthole Fartch is an associate of mine who owed me a favor for a very important thing that I assured him I did for him quite some time ago. And recently helped assist another associate of mine, Gundren Rockseeker, attempt to open a mine in the town of Fandelver.
And how many times since Mr. Fartch came through town last, how many times have you seen him?
I have not seen Mr. Fartch since that first encounter.
Could you please describe your relationship with the man formerly known as Fiddlesworth, now known as Stankfleur?
Fiddlesworth. You know, I gave him that name. Ungrateful butler. Fiddlesworth was my butler for many years. He was my right hand at the Upside Down Hat, that great tavern that you all remember. And he kind of looks around pleadingly, and there are a couple nods, but not as many as you'd hoped. Sometime after Mr. Fartch came and told us about the god he loves, Moonhammer, Fiddlesworth got some strange ideas into his head. He started praising Moonhammer himself, which I thought was fairly harmless in and of itself, but then suddenly he started turning people at the bar, giving away free drinks, which was quite unlike him. And before I knew it, he was farting and drinking and leading the masses, and before I knew it, he turned on me. He and his followers, they overthrew me. They took my house. They took my tavern. They nearly killed me. They gave me this, and he points to the brand on his face. Just like they did to that random wolf over there. They branded me for not following their damned god.
And to your knowledge, why did Fiddlesworth do these things?
I think he became drunk on the power of it. Fiddlesworth was never a man of greatness. He was a perfect butler. That was all he should ever have been. He was perfect at butling. But his ambitions grew. He got delusions of grandeur, and suddenly he had such power. His eyes would glow. He began to manifest fire. It was as though he was channeling a power greater than himself. Such men should never hold such power. We need stalwart people like Butthole Fartch to wield such power. And you, of course, Paladin von Strauss. And he kind of like nods to von Strauss. Von Strauss is busy body bagging the dead gnome.
To your knowledge, did any of Fiddlesworth's actions, did he do anything at the behest of Mr. Fartch?
No, the only crime I can lay at the feet of Mr. Fartch was introducing a power too great for a man such as Fiddlesworth to wield, but I do not blame my misfortune upon him. I blame it on Fiddlesworth. Fuck Fiddlesworth.
Thank you.
And I just like raise like a little like celebration fist, but then like try to comport myself with the dignity of the court.
Thank you, Mr. Falstaff. And at this point, I would like to propose that this case is very similar to the one that happened in the magical community to the north when that dwarf brought his religion of the Forge God.
You can see two of the judges are like, what the fuck? Bluebeard's like, what the fuck? But you see Darg, clearly the biggest judge, nodding knowingly.
Yes, and that religion turned into a cult without that dwarf's knowledge or permission or any other hand in that at all.
Can you roll me a history check?
And yeah, 8 total.
You want to roll it again because you're at disadvantage for your first big mental check of the day?
Fuck me. Yeah, 8 total.
So you quickly lay out the details of that case. Bluebeard yells objection a few times because he like hasn't read this case and he demands to be able to read it. And everyone's like, no, keep your shit together. He asks Carmine only one question, which is essentially, Mr. Falstaff, you say that Butthole Fartch brought Moonhammer to Neverwinter? And Carmine's like, well, yeah, so he was the first person I heard of it. He's like, all right, I rest my case. And just like gestures wildly with his tiny gnome. He's got like little Trump hands, and he's just like, come on, come on. And he goes and sits down. Closing statements.
Anything?
Well,
Listen,
you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I
hope this is happening in real time at the table.
It's you guys. Isn't it them, then prosecution, then me? That's the balance?
All right.
So you two, go for it.
Okay, like you'll say half, I'll say half.
Yep.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, I'll start.
As is the way of law. Never.
And I look at the judge and I'm like, judges, my counsel would like to go halfsies on their portion of the closing statement.
One of them leans forward and says, as you know, halvesies is one of our oldest legal traditions.
Yay!
Thank you, no eyes.
I have. Okay, you know what? We don't need to deal with this.
As the court has seen through our witnesses and Mr. Fartch himself in his testimony, the Goddess Moonhammer, the religion of Goddess Moonhammer, was brought here only as one man spreading goodness in the world and has been totally misrepresented by Fiddlesworth. And it is Fiddlesworth's fault that all these people got hurt and murdered. And as with, the other case that I just talked about not too long ago, that Butthole should not be responsible for the actions of the followers of Moonhammer. To you, Pete.
That
not
was
Pete.
Yep. I would also like to say, having been a member of some underground ill repute in this city of ours for so long, the kind of organization it takes to raise up into any kind of organization and into any kind of leadership position is absolutely incredible. This man could not organize himself out of a paper bag.
I fart into my origami box and smell it.
He is many things,
I feed the box to Goblin Jr.
but a leader, he's not. Thank you.
So the prosecution's still just a little astounded by what happened. Says, listen, my fellow citizens, we have been plagued by this goddess Moonhammer since she first arrived in our city, and this is the man who brought her to our door. We must not allow the plague of Moonhammer to continue to spread across this city, no matter how adorable his dog may be or his farting gags. This man is a man of conviction, a man of passion. He believes and is able to rally people to his cause. How many more people will we see turned to the face of Moonhammer before this madness ends? I rest my case.
I kind of like gesture at him, just be like, this guy. Come on.
Roll me a persuasion check.
Natural 20.
20.
And the crowd rolled a natural 1.
Oh, amazing.
People literally, it's like one guy stands up slow clapping, it's Steve. And then slowly everyone else gets up, and Bluebeard does that thing in like legal dramas where he kind of can't believe it, and he turns and like he takes his glasses off to like somehow see it better. And he looks back to the judges, and one of them in a very like, smooth way is like, what are you going to do? And shrugs. And
Like puts on sunglasses and goes surfing.
and you look over, and like Von Strauss is like tapping his sword against the ground. And
You're like, this asshole. Yeah, it's not because of the speech at all. They had no interest in you at that point, but because you were like, this guy. They were like, oh my God, my life will never be the same.
Butthole is simultaneously thrilled and really worried about following this.
it's up to you, man. The crowd's there.
I am struck with my biggest moment of legal inspiration, and it stands for this speech. And I say, my friends have covered a lot of the true issues. Yes, I discovered the goddess Moonhammer. Yes, I have spread her worship, not this bastardization. This symbol here, and I point to the drawing that the lady did. That is the symbol of Blighthammer. I renamed this blasphemous god Blighthammer. This is a demonic god that is not mine. Moonhammer, I have spread to friends and to others. Moonhammer is a god of healing. It is a god of fun. It is a god of justice and servitude. Also, I'm definitely an idiot. I have done the majority of my plans do not work. I have said bake a crossbow into a cake and send it to an evil murderous king. I have said claim Alan is a villain, and then we went to meet the villain. Went poorly. I fart way more often than I should. People don't like that. There's a lot of problems with me. I'm not a criminal. I can't keep track of anyone's names, except this trial began with 10 names that this lawyer probably couldn't remember if he had to say again. He'd have to read them, but I have some names I would like to say of people I've met over my adventures. Gundren and Nundren, the Rockseeker brothers, who I saved from torture at the hands of goblins alongside my friends, and who I saved while defeating the Black Spider, a drow who wanted to reopen the Wave Echo Caverns in the name of evil. Sister Garaele of the Harpers, who ran a temple in Phandelver, who named me and my friends to the Harpers as heroes. The owner of the Shield Lion Inn. I would kick in the door and she'd go, oh, don't do that. And we had a bit, and she was my friend. Sildar, he had some stupid armor, and he was retired, but he was a hero in his own right. Also, Carl the Beholder and the Nothic of Phandelver. Yes, I have made friends with monsters. I made friends with Fiddlesworth. He's a monster. Shit goes bad sometimes. The family of a man who was kidnapped by the Red Brand Brigands. I don't remember their names. I only saw them for a minute, but I healed their son. Also, the entire town of Phandelver. We defeated the Red Brand Brigands. They thanked us. They let me start the real Temple of Moonhammer, not Blighthammer. Also, there's old Jim of old Jim's Rum Shack in Winchester, who's opening a branch in Phandelver on land we have given him. There is Garvo the Undying. I'm now worried about how his religion is going, but he's the only priest of Moonhammer who's ever been legitimately named. And there's Chef Ramsay of Winchester. He died tragically. He resisted the power of an evil demon, and he became my friend and saved this dog right here. There's Carmine Falstaff. He's a shady guy, but he's a nice guy, and I owe him a favor he's never specified that I really trusted him about. There's also the Greywater Syndicate, who I worked alongside and who I healed dozens, if not hundreds of. There is every soul that I freed when we defeated a demon who was running and destroying the kingdom of Winchester as all spooky smoke demon things. There's Richard the Falcon. I owned a mule named Hot Ass. There's Goldtooth. I don't know his name, but he's a friend I made that no one liked at the Upside Down Hat. There's also Lil Pim Pim, who we re-put on his rightful throne. King Mudbutt, who we protected through his coronation. Ranger the Ranger, I gave him his second dick back. And, well, I guess Mudbutt again. And then not Peter Baelish, who I met, who is amazing and who is the absolute best, and he lost a mustache today, and when this collar comes off, I'm giving him that mustache back, because friends deserve mustaches.
I just stand up and just applaud wildly. Wildly.
The crowd bursts into applause. There's tears. There's the classic pan across the crowd where some people who weren't so convinced or somewhat convinced. The judges are calling for order, but it's too much. It's too crazy. They all kind of lean over to each other, and each of them confers on their verdict. Von Strauss calls for order, but ultimately the crowd's too fired up. Everyone's standing there waiting to applaud and scream. And basically Von Strauss says, in the case of Neverwinter v. Butthole Fartch, how do you each find? So Hear No Evil gets up and she says very clearly, in this case, I find the defendant not guilty. Speak No Evil gets up and looks specifically to Not Pete and Alan as he says this, and he says, in this case, I find the defendant not guilty. Finally, the final judge says, I once freed a dwarf in the Northlands for this, and I remember that case, and I will see justice done. I also vote not guilty. And the room explodes into applause.
I just bro grab Butthole and, shoulder pat. And
I would like to think I faint immediately.
I sort of shoulder pat, and then you just fall down. I'm like, oh, not my problem.
So thunderous applause. Everyone's on their feet, except for one figure in the balcony who stands up and says, fine, so be it. Blue flame! And you hear a tremendous fart, and then the fart flies down towards the ground. And suddenly a walking stick spikes the ground and it turns into fire, and the fire flies up over his head and heads straight for you, Butthole.
And I just look at him and go, walking stick? You're an embarrassment.
This episode of Dum-Dums and Dragons features the voices of Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter, Laura Hamstra at EL Hamstring on Twitter, our special guest, and our DM Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode's sound was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and Dum-Dums and Dragons artwork is by Del Borovic, who can be found at delborovic.com. Our theme songs are And Now for That Massive Coronary and Skipping Through the Orchestra Pit Part 1 by Peter Gresser, and our ad music is No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, all available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. But most importantly, we've got merchandise at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, or you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDUMBDICE. And tune in next week for more Dum-Dums and Dragons.